This podcast is meant for mature audiences only. In this podcast, I explore stories of darkness from history, myth, and legend. I am Dennis Sarah, and this is Evil. This episode is brought to you by Horror Pack. Sometimes, evil is not a pure or calculated malevolence. Sometimes, evil evolves from a clash of two cultures. Two sets of ideals at odds with each other. A chain of events that spiral out of control and end in blood. The Boyd was an English ship of about 500 tons. It was under command of Captain John Thompson. The Boyd left London in March of 1809. It had stops in New South Wales, Port Jackson, Sydney, and set sail for New Zealand in August. Cape of Good Hope, Harangaro, was selected as their port of call. The Boyd had around 70 people on board. A number of them were Maori. The Maori are indigenous people of New Zealand. The original Maori were settlers from eastern Polynesia and arrived in New Zealand in several waves of canoe voyages at some time between 1250 and 1300 CE. Within the centuries of isolation, the Maori settlers created a unique culture, developed their own language, a rich mythology, unique crafts and performing arts. They formed tribal groups based on Eastern Polynesian social organization and customs. The Maori flourished and became a warrior culture. Back to 1809 and the Boyd. Among the 70 people on board were a number of Maori, one of which was Tiara. Tiara was from Hongora. He regularly traveled overseas and served as a seaman on a few European ships. He learned to speak English through his travels. He was a proud young Maori chief. J.L. Nichols, who visited Hongora in 1814, described Tiara. His features were not unsightly, but they appeared to veil the dark and subtle malignity of intention and the lurking treachery of a depraved heart. In my research, I could not find any drawings of Chief Tiara, so I could not say J.L. Nichols' 1814 description was an accurate portrayal of him. His description could be biased by the events of 1809, but more of that later. However, if you look up pictures of ancient Maori people, you will usually see them with what is called a tamahoko. It is a traditional permanent body and face marking, not a tattoo, but a ritualistic carving that leaves grooves in the skin. It gives them a fearsome look. But back to the Boyd in 1809. When the ship sailed into Hongora port, Tiara and the rest of the Maori were upset. They felt they had been mistreated, and the chief had been disrespected. What exactly happened on the Boyd prior to it landing in Angora may be lost in history. Some reports claim Tiara was caught stealing or had been wrongfully accused. The exact accusation is a bit fuzzy, but the punishment was severe. Captain John Thompson ordered Tiara to be stripped of his possessions and flogged. When he protested and stated the Maori chief should not be treated with such disrespect, he was met with ridicule. Needless to say, the punishment was carried out in a very public fashion, as was customary with English ships of the time. Can't pretend to know what was going on in the minds of the long-dead English ship captains or Maori chiefs. I do not know if Captain Thompson was pressured into making an example of Tiara, or if he simply saw his punishment as necessity to maintain order on his ship. I also have no idea if Tiara did steal anything, if the charge was simply made up, or what was the exact crime he was accused of. History has a way of swallowing up small details, but large events, they live on. Upon reaching Angora, Tiara reported the indignities he had suffered to his tribe and displayed the whip marks on his back. In accordance with Maori customs, they formed a plan for Otu. Utu is the Moray concept of reciprocation, balance. To the Moray, actions require an appropriate response. Utu covers the reciprocation of kind deeds and the seeking of revenge. 2 days after the Boyd arrived at Angora, Captain Thompson and 4 men went ashore in search of spars. Spars are the long poles used for ship masts. According to some reports, the men were all unarmed except for the captain's fowling piece. A fowling piece is an early shotgun or scattergun. When the captain and the 4 men that accompanied him were well out of sight of the Boyd, they were attacked by Moray warriors. In the melee, Captain Thompson managed to fire off 1 shot from his scattergun. Some reports say the shot killed a Moray child. After the captain and his 4 crewmen were killed, the Moray warriors donned the English sailors' clothing and returned to the Boyd. The disguised Moray manned the captain's longboat, and at nightfall slipped alongside the Boyd. They were greeted by the crew while many Moray canoes awaited nearby for the signal to attack. The ship's officer was the first to be killed, and then the signal was given. The waiting Moray boarded the Boyd and crept around the deck, stealthily killing the crew. Next, the Moray warriors called the passengers to the deck and attacked them as well. While the massacre continued, 5 people managed to hide up in the mast. They must have witnessed not only the killing of their family and friends, but also the dismembering of their bodies. One reason this attack in 1809 is so memorable is that the Moray not only killed the some 70 crew and passengers of the Boyd, but allegedly ate them as well. The next morning, the 5 survivors hiding in the mast saw a large canoe carrying Chief Tapahai from the Bay of Islands enter the area. The chief had come to trade with the Wangora Moray. The 5 called out to Tapahai and the members of his tribe for help. The visiting tribe gathered the survivors from the Boyd and headed ashore. But the Wangora Moray were not done yet. 2 canoes pursued the visiting tribe to shore. The 5 survivors attempted to flee along the beach. All but 1 were caught and killed by their pursuers. In the aftermath of the massacre, 5 people were spared. Anne Morley and her baby, Thomas Davison, a 15-year-old cabin boy, the Boyd's second mate, and 2-year-old Betsy Broughton. Unfortunately for the second mate, he was only spared for his ability to make fish hooks. Once his usefulness expired, he was killed and eaten as well. Perhaps the Moray had stayed in their Utu and did not see Thomas as a threat and spared him. According to some reports, the cabin boy may have been spared because he had a club foot. Some have speculated that the Moray did not kill him as they believed it might have brought them bad luck if they did. Whatever the reason, the 15-year-old Thomas was spared. Mrs. Morley and her young child were still in grave danger. However, it was the Moray women that came to her rescue and prevented any further harm to come to her or her child. And 2-year-old Betsy Broughton was kept in the custody of Chief Tapahai. Weeks later, in December of 1809, a ship, the City of Edinburgh, came to rescue the survivors. Captain Alexander Barry came to Hongora and saw the burnt hull of the Boyd. Once ashore, the crew found piles of human bones. The Moray did not try to hide what had happened. They spoke freely to Captain Barry about the details of their victory over the Boyd. Through negotiations for the survivors, the Moray invited Captain Barry to stay the night on shore. The captain politely declined and later reported, "We had seen the mangled fragments and fresh bones of our countrymen, with the marks even of the teeth remaining on them, and it certainly could not be agreeable to pass the night by the side of their devourers." although he did not stay the night in the company of the Moray. Captain Barry did negotiate for the release of the 4 survivors and sailed away with all of them. In March of 1810, sailors from 5 whaling ships launched a revenge attack. Reports indicate that up to 60 Moray were killed. When researching the Boyd Massacre, I found an interesting news clip. In 2009, a 3-day remembrance event to mark the 200th anniversary of the Boyd incident and the following events was held. Descendants of the 4 survivors and the Moray involved were to be in attendance. The whole event was being put together by Terry Smith, Boyd Remembrance Committee Chairman and descendant of Te Pahe. The event drew hundreds of participants that included some 50 descendants of Betsy Broughton, the 2-year-old girl survivor from 1809. As you probably figured out, this was an actual true story. Some details here and there are left out, but some of them are foggy in history. I put it together as best as I understood it. Evil Podcast can always use your support. Would appreciate it if you subscribe on whatever player you use, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, or any of the vast number out there. I'd like to thank Fantasy Baller 9000 for their 5-star review on iTunes. Much appreciated. As I mentioned earlier, this episode was sponsored by Horror Pack, a subscription service of horror movies. You get 4 every month, whether it's DVD or Blu-ray. They start about $20 or so, but you can get a discount if you go to evilpodcast.com and click on the box that says Horror Pack. It's a surprise every month, picked out by not only horror filmmakers, but horror fans as well. Also, if you want to listen to past episodes, you can always go to evilpodcast.com into the archives there. This marks our 10th episode. I know that 10 doesn't sound like a lot, but there's a lot that goes behind the scenes to get this done, and some expense as well. Speaking of expense, you could surely help us out. You can either do a one-time donation on evilpodcast.com, or go to evilpodcast.com and click on our Patreon link. On Patreon, you become a monthly subscriber, as little as $1, but that $1 helps. I'd like to thank everyone that listens. I surely do appreciate it. And remember, be good.